Okay, let's see, guys, if you can see me. Let's see if you can hear me and all the stuff. Actually, no. Where am I? I don't know. Boo, 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 boo. Oh, you got okay. You can see me. Okay, so I will stop the other one. Okay, scenes here, and I will stop it and stream. And let's go to the other one. It should be better, right? Yeah, we don't want that anymore. Okay. So I think everybody's here. I think we are live already. Davide, no, non ti preoccupare. Poor Davide. No, it's not you that you brought bad luck. Okay, okay. I think we are back again. Probably have everything completely strange here, but okay. Let's try to fix this and work our way. Let's see if this works better. Nope, nope, nope. Sure, sure. I mean, YouTube doesn't really help when you have such a situation, but we'll fix it somehow. All right. Let me see. Where am I? Oh my god, my god. You know what? Let's go there. Like this. Close the sound and put it as low as possible. Something like that. Okay. Yes, wet setup if we manage to make it work, you know. All right. Wet setups are very difficult to set up, says Jonathan. So correct. Okay. Okay. Before, of course, it worked. Now I will try again. How fun would it be if it wouldn't be working anymore? Okay, let's see. Now it works. It works. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're in. Happy Friday, Chris. Thank you. Sorry for all the trouble here, but eventually we will make it. Um, so let me know, guys, if you can hear the game. Let's go back and put some music of the game and see if you can hear it. Oh, should be correct. Yeah, we're in. We're in. You should also hear the music, possibly. I will lower it down and start again. And let's go into the session. Any hints what you can expect from 1.4? More control of your car you can expect from 1.4. All right, all good, all good. We're in. Finally, just 50 minutes of messing around and doing nothing at all. I'm already tired. I've been driving all day, and now finally we can drive again. All right, so great. Wet preset. So this is our wet preset here. And from what I remember, it's pretty awful. So, but let's go and have a go. Let's drive it. Lots of raining. All right. Sound is pretty low. Okay. All right. No, listen how the traction control keeps on. I mean, it's terrible, terrible. Nice weather for ducks, as they say. Ooh, look at that! Look how the car is practically undrivable, and I've released those presets. I mean, what on earth was I was I thinking? I'm pretty sure that this is an error. So as you can see, the car is completely undrivable. Thanks, Douglas Mancini, for joining and following and all that good stuff. Oof. I mean, the moment I turn, look how much oversteer I have. It's just impossible to keep the car on track. And this is not even storm. We are at heavy rain, but not storm. No, the car doesn't have damage. It's simply that the original wet preset sucks. Completely sucks. I'm just it's that bad, and I have to fix it because for whatever reason, I've completely mistaken putting the correct wet preset on the Huracan Evo. So it is a very good occasion to work on it, fix it, and make it proper for you guys when you are going to get the new update. Yeah, because I should have light up my lights. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. I will show you how to do a proper wet setup. All right, so let's go in. And let's try to fix the setup here. Now the flag is very simple. Look at that. So if you see, and I will show it to you because obviously you cannot see what is going on. So let's go into car electronics, all right, on the MFD, on the multifunction display. If you switch off the lights and you start with if your lights are on manual and you switch off the lights, then the game will tell you turn on the lights. You have three remaining laps, and if you're not, they will start putting you the flag after a while. So if you switch them on, the message goes off and everything is fine. We have explained paths for so many times, Ivan. There is also the forum blog. Do not use them. It's there just to understand how they wear out. I don't know about performance improvements. All right, so let's go on the setup. So what is happening now? Obviously, as you know, the first thing we do is start with the pressures. But right now, the car is completely undrivable, so it doesn't even make sense to start with the pressures. So what do you need? The first thing that you need with a wet setup is traction and stability. You need tons of traction and you need tons of stability because you don't want to lose, the rear end. Even if you have some understeer, it's no big issue. You can fix it maybe later, but the first thing you need to do is having, uh, proper stability of the car. You don't want the rear end to go around. And what we can do to uh, to have the car more stable is the ride heights. Okay, so the first thing we have to do is you can see here we have the rear ride height quite high, which might be fine when the car is when the asphalt is dry. But right now we cannot drive the car, so I will just slam it down at the same ride height as the front. Now, I know we usually just do one clicks or two clicks at a time, but at this situation right now, we have a car that is simply completely undrivable, completely undrivable, all right? So we need all the stability. So I don't care if the car will go straight, if I'm going to have too much understeer right now. If you have understeer, this is good. I want the stability. Then slowly we will start, we are going to get stability, and then slowly we will start to eliminate maybe the understeer. So as high as possible rear wing, same ride height back and forth. Again, this is to make the car work, okay, um, to make the car work while we have these kind of conditions to have stability. We don't care about performance right now. We just want the car to stay on track. This is our main problem. The car doesn't stay on track. So let's start with that. Maximum rear wing, equal front and rear ride height, and see if the car stays on track. Okay. All right. So let's go. Um, Airvol says, "What is the rationale behind car getting more stable with lower ride heights?" No, it's not that. It's we're trying to have stability, and if you have to watch my other videos to understand, because right now you've just in like this, and obviously it won't work for you. You won't understand it. But the main thing is that the higher the rear end is than the front, the more the aero balance moves to the front, and the more the rear is lighter. So, you don't have enough grip. The lower the rear is, the more the aero balance moves to the rear, and so the car, has more grip at the rear. So that's the main issue. But I really, really advise you to go and watch the other videos, and I have actually made some playlists that I will show you right now on the link, so that you can understand better how to do stuff. So, 7 steps to a custom setup. I think this is a very good place to start with. You will understand many things. So go here, okay? Go here, watch all the playlists from step 1, and you'll be fine. MTC ZRNK. What is you with your nickname, mate? No, the front aero balance. What you see here. Okay, so return to garage again. So what you see here on the front aero variation, this is not where the aero balance is. This is the difference of the aero balance. We do not tell you where the aero balance is because it's sensitive data and we cannot show it to you. But we tell you that depending on what you do, where the aero balance moves. So, as you can see here, the front aero variation says base ride height 65 rear and 60 front is where the zero is. Depending on what you do with your ride height, the aero balance moves forward or backward if it's negative. And that gives you an indication of what you're doing. So obviously, when we were like that, 75, you see, it moved forward, positive number, 2% than where it was before. If you move it, at 60, it moved rearwards. Okay. So this is a generic idea. Okay. So back to driving, as I said. No worries, mate. I'm here to explain you things. Again, all that stuff is explained on the older videos. Go to the playlist, watch the playlist. You're gonna have fun, I believe, and you're gonna learn many new things. Actually, no, Graham, it makes the diffuser even more effective maybe if you raise the rear right height. But the balance of the aero moves to the front. That is the main difference of, Assetto Corsa Competizione with older sims. It has a very dynamic aero simulation that is based on actual, aero maps. And this is actually what's happening. It's not that you are producing less downforce. You're probably even producing more downforce, but it moves forward. Serdier, my friend! How you doing, mate? Welcome. All right, so let's see if we have a car that it is at least drivable. Well, yes, it is much better than before. Obviously, the conditions are terrible, but you see, it doesn't go instantly in oversteer. Well, yes, yes. Assetto Corsa competizione. Good evening, Frederick. All right, so as you can see, the car is a little bit stable. It's much better than before. You see, I can go into the turns and I don't have to do weird stuff. The conditions are terrible, but at least we stay on track. There is some, oversteer. You have to stay careful, but car sound is very low. Car sound is very low. We can fix that. Let's go here, audio, and move this again. I don't know about that, mate, about the imperial values. Possibly better now. Let me know if it's too low or too high. If it is too high, let me know. All right. Okay. So we have a car that stays on the road, behaves, goes completely straight while braking, as you saw here, but at least it doesn't go into full oversteer. So as I said, we knew we were gonna have understeer problems. That's not a big issue for now. What we want is to have a car that stays on track so that we can start working with the car. Vision Slayer, I will tell you just in a minute why the tires do not touch the road at 28 psi. Yep, as MJ Puck said, wet tires optimum pressure is higher than slick tires. You want the wet tires to be at around 29-30 psi, or even higher, depends. But usually about 30 is the best value. It's much higher than 27, 28 than the slick tires. A different tire has different construction. It needs much more pressure to stay on the road. Yep. So we can see already that we stay on the road, but the tires do not get hotter and the pressure is a bit low. So one thing we could do right now is that since we are starting, being able to drive at least, because before we weren't even able to drive, we could go into the pits and before even starting, to see if we can improve our understeer here, we could play with the tires, the pressures, adjust them, and see if we can possibly, make them go higher and get some grip. Turn on the light rain, sure. Light rain on. We even need a faster wiper here. Here. Ooh, again straight, so straight here. It's so much water, guys. can feel the car and all the problems that it has to deal with the situation. But you see, I'm still lapping. Obviously, I'm not fast, but it still stays at 28 psi. It doesn't go up. So for those conditions here right now, we are going to need higher pressure to make the tires work better. Ooh, understeer, of course. Let's do another lap and see what's going on. Oh, indicators. We have indicators, actually. Indicators, guys. Have cold brakes, I have cold tires, I have... Well, the tires are not cold, actually. The temperature of the tires is not bad, but the pressure is very, very low. So we need to, you know, we need to go down. We need to raise up the pressures. And obviously, having higher pressures, going closer to the optimum pressures, will give us a better footprint of the tire, and of course that will give us some extra grip, which, you know, every little grip that you can get in these conditions is always better. Ciao, Mickey! Okay, brake a little bit sooner here because, ooh, so much understeer, and use a different line maybe. Well, you know, guys, obviously it would have been nice to have some information inside the game, but as you can see, the setups in Assetto Corsa Competizione became so particular and so complex, and the whole simulation is so complex that it's difficult. I mean, we had to explain you all that stuff by voice and making videos, because otherwise it's really hard to understand. So anyway, why it's so hard to set up a Porsche? You have to go and watch. So while we're going in here, okay, and let's stop before that. We don't need that. So Midi says, why it's so hard to set up a Porsche? Well, let me show you, mate. You have to go and watch this video here. Let's see where it is. Should be here somewhere. In the too long didn't watch. Pop, 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 pop. Okay, this is it. So you have to go and watch this video that I will pass to you in the chat, which I believe will help you very much to understand what is going on. So me D said, why for me D. Okay. So why the Porsche is so hard? Go watch this video, mate, and you understand how the weight balance of a car and where the engine is and how the balance is distributed and the center of gravity and all that changes how a car reacts. This is a fundamental thing to understand. So I really, really, advising you to go and watch this video, and it's going to be very, very clear to you. All right, so dryline simulated ACC. Yes, we are going to talk about that in a minute. Guys, keep it a little bit slow, because otherwise I cannot go so fast with you. So, first thing first, rise up. The pressures were at around 28, so we need at least 2 psi higher. So let's go to 28. Let's go to 29 here, and 29 here, and 29 here again, right? And 29 here again. Let's go 29 and see what will happen. Okay, so let's go in. Let's do a couple of laps with higher pressures and see what will happen with our car. I mean, the tires are not even hot yet, and you can already see how the car is more stable and more precise. And you see it. It's much more precise. You don't have this movement that you had before with the tires being so flexible because of the low pressure. When you have low pressure, the sidewalls of the tires are flexible, obviously simulated, and that moves your car around, and you might have a nice feeling of on the steering wheel, but the car doesn't really goes exactly where you want it. The brakes, one thing at a time, mate. One thing at a time. We have all night long. The braking bias, again, let me do that lap, see what will happen with the pressures, and then member 38015, your nicknames, guys. I will explain you what the brake bias is into this car and why it might be similar to a front engine car or not. I will try to explain you as I'm driving. Also, it's not so easy in these conditions. But the main thing is the brake bias you see. It's not a precise brake bias of how much force goes to the front brakes and how much force goes to the rear brakes. It's just a number, and it is different in every car. In reality, we are giving you the actual brake bias that the real cars use, more or less, so that the proper real drivers can get into the simulation, Assetto Corsa Competizione, with their engineers, and switch and put the actual brake bias of the real car and have a similar condition. So why it is different from car to car? Because it depends what kind of brake ducts, what kind of brake discs and calipers you have at the front and at the rear, which are different. What kind of pressure of the brake system you have at the front and at the rear, which again is different. Okay, so at some point you also put in the brake bias and gives you a number, but again, as I told you, this number is not the exact mathematical brake torque that arrives to the front tires and to the rear tires as it was in all the other old sims. We're actually now simulating properly the correct number, that they have into the real cars, because that helps them to put, the brake bias from their setups, from the real cars, and be, very close to the real thing feeling. So that's why you can see a car that is, for example, rear engine having a brake bias of 63 and a car front engine 63, or you can have a car front engine that has 55. And you go, why? Well, piston sizes, different discs, different pressures into the brake system, all of that. So actually, you have, if you put 50%, in reality, the actual braking torque that goes to the front tires, it's much higher than the torque that goes, the braking torque that goes to the rear tires. Even if your brake bias says 50%, you know, that's how it works. All right, guys. So as you can see, my tire pressures are about 30 psi at the rear and a little bit lower at the front, so I could gain a little bit at the front. I cannot watch the chat and answer to everything. Ah, yes, NC. Sorry about that, mate. But actually, we have a car here that, you know, starts to react almost properly. Miki! Non c'è problema, Miki. Ci sarà la differita. E ovviamente taglierò il video in pezzettini. Yes, Vision, I can show my view settings in a while. A bit later. Had the car going sideways, but still I managed to keep it, so not that bad. Thank you, Ivan, for following. I really enjoy doing those live streams when the sound works. Lorenzo, we are in full heavy rain, so yeah, it's terrible. Now, you guys might see me not following the exact lines. You might be wondering why, but I will tell you later, all right? Kevin, we talked about that at the start of the stream. We explained that you need usually from 2 to 4 millimeters higher ride height, but you need that from whatever you had on your dry setup. You know, we are already a bit higher right now. We are at 60 millimeters. This car can go down to 55, so it's already higher. We're just, right now, we're not trying to do the perfect range setup. We're trying to do a drivable setup because, as I said, for whatever reason, the Huracan Evo range setup preset, the one that is, you know, that you can find inside the game, practically sucks. There's no other way around it. It is undrivable, completely undrivable. And so we have to fix that for the new update. And so that you guys get finally some drivable rain presets for the Huracan Evo. So the first thing we did was, you know, slamming the rear end of the car at the same height as the front, so that we gained stability. As you can see, we have plenty of understeer, but for now it's okay. We are working a little bit on the tire pressures to get them back into the correct tire pressure, which, as I said, is around 30. And we're pretty close right now. And after that, we're going to make the setup a little bit better. Of course, I won't leave it as it is, which is very, very understeery. And then, you know, we can see what else I can show you. There is plenty of things to show and talk about rain, so we will arrive to even more interesting stuff. After this, I will save the setup. I can also send it to you guys in the comments, but most importantly, I will get the setup and put it into the game as a wet preset, and you will find it as a wet preset on the actual update, when the update you know, lands on Steam. Haha, Porsche Cup on those conditions. That's gonna be funny. That's gonna be very fun. or whatever is your definition of fun. Hello, Nate, newcomer. Welcome, newcomer. All right, so let's go back to the pits. Raise a tiny little bit the front pressures to go up to 30. The rear seem practically spot on. And then do some extra stuff. So, indicator and moving into the pits. All right, in again. Okay, so garage setup. As we said, we are going to go up by 4, 0.4, 0.4 here and 0.4 here, so that we get our hot PSI of the wet tires at around 30 PSI. So while we're doing this, let me save this as wet 1 and move on. Okay, so, right, so what we can do. Now, one of the things that we have done already here, and here we have a little of a problem I can see, is that it is a good practice to use quite a lot of toe, front and rear. Obviously negative at the front, but you can even use it positive, whatever you prefer, depending also how you feel the steering wheel. And quite a bit also toe positive at the rear. Why? Because by using lots of toe, you are scrubbing a little bit the tires also in the straight line, and this generates heat. Generating heat on on the wet is always a good thing. You might have seen that I've used this technique with my Aston Martin at Brands Hatch, that we had a very dry line and we had to drive slicks on a dry line, but it was wet practically, it was damp. So the slicks were very low in temperature, and I was trying every little bit to heat them up. So I used as much toe on both front and rear to scrub the tires and get a tiny bit of heat. All right. So okay, we did that. Fine. What else can we do? Well, the first thing I would like to do, but I can do this manually, and I would like to change the brake bias. Usually, in the rain, you want more rear brake bias than what you're using during a dry setup, dry conditions. Why is that? Because the front tires tend to lock a lot, or not being able to brake as much, and you need to uh, make them lighter, having them using uh, as less grip as possible longitudinally, so that you can also start turning. I don't know if you guys remember. Let's see if I have it here. But I don't know if you remember when I explained to you actually how the tires generate grip. Okay. So how the tires generate grip? If you remember, and we should be here somewhere or on the other one, I'm not so sure about that. I will tell you in a minute. No, that's not it. Let me check the other one. Maybe it is here on the alignment. Let me find out where I had the graphs. No, it wasn't here, so it was in the other one. We'll find it. Should be here somewhere. So open again. Okay, so yeah, here it is. Okay, so as we said, slick tires, if you remember, guys. um, this was it practically. Okay, so this is the graph of a tire and how it generates grip. I believe you remember this. Now the thing is that this might be the lateral uh, grip of the tire. The problem is that if you are asking from the tire the maximum lateral grip, okay, exactly here, you cannot ask from the tire the same thing longitudinally. The tire can generate grip in one direction or another. That's not exactly the situation. It can generate both, but usually you cannot ask the maximum longitudinal grip and at the same time ask some lateral grip. You have to give in something to take something from the other side. Okay. So what we're doing during rain is asking from the front tires to brake a little bit less so that they can generate some extra lateral grip so that we can, turn in the car properly and make it turn. So, yes, exactly, Ervol. The degrees of the tires while sliding. So let's go back and drive some, but this time we are going to move the brake bias to the rear. So we were at 57, sorry. We're going to try and go down to 56 and see what happens. Subat fan, I believe I've shown friction cycles, but I don't remember anymore, and I couldn't find the graph, so I don't remember. I'm old. Right, so let's see. As I said, we moved behind the brake bias to 56. Let's see if that improves our turn in. So, braking and turning in, not so much, but something happened. Well, obviously, we will try to move it backwards some more. Yes, absolutely, Subat fan. 56 moves to the back. It's 56% at the front. We were at 57, so at 56 moves, braking to rearwards. Okay, so I can still see some understeer while braking. Try again. It goes a little bit better here. But again, much understeer here. Let's try again. Right, brake, brake. A little bit better. You can see here that it does follow a little bit the turn. So let's go back to 55. Back to 55 and see what happens. At some point, it's going to be so much backwards that I'm going to have issues controlling the rear end of the car. But until doing this, until this doesn't happen, I will keep going backwards. So let's see. Oh, understeer. More understeer. And that was a higher speed, so that might give us an indication. We'll see now. So high speed, braking. Oh, understeer again. TC is not the focus. Yes, exactly. As NC said, we are trying to do one thing at a time. You have to focus on just one thing at a time. If you try to change everything altogether, then you will not understand what's going on. Again, here you see high to medium speed turn in, and I'm still getting understeer. Now we are going into some slow corners. Let's see what happens. Again, understeer. So I can go even backwards, even more backwards. All right, so let's go to 54 and see what happens. Again, one step at a time, you see? We went to 56, not much change. 55, 54. Whoops, now you see that, finally the car starts to react in a different way. Turn it seen. We have to, obviously this is a slow turn, so we don't have issues to control the car. We have to see if we can control it into a faster turn and more difficult turn. But for now, for sure, it seems that at 54, we are having some better turn in. Now this is an interesting turn here. I keep getting some lockups, so I will again keep focusing on the brakes, but this time I see that I have a ABS level of 8 of 11, so maybe I can change this to 9 and see if it improves into these terrible, terrible conditions. You saw here that the car started moving a little bit sideways. But then again, when I let go the brake, I have issues. The front end doesn't follow as much, so I have issues to control the car inside the turn. I have too much understeer right now. But you see, at slower turns, it's better. The car turns around, aided by the fact that the rear wheels are braking much more. Here even better, you saw? Much better turn in. Traction control works over time. It starts even having a tiny bit of oversteer here. Did you notice that I had to work a little bit with the steering wheel? Nice. So ABS 9 and much rearwards. Brake bias starts giving us some interesting results. Alright, braking here. Ooh, way too late. But still, you see, I've managed to keep the car. That wasn't bad at all for such a late braking. Why the top of the tire stay blue? The top of the tire is actually the temperature of the surface of the car, or of the tire, the surface. The rest of the tire is the core. So, because the surface of the tire heats so much the water, which is cold, obviously, when you are on the straight line, or when the tire doesn't scrub so much, because it's maybe the inner tire of the turn, it gets colder, and so it starts to become blue. But that's the surface. The core of the tire remains in a better situation. That is because the surface of the tires suffers or gets influenced by or creates what we call flash temperature. We call it flash because it varies way too fast. It goes up to 120, 130, it goes down to 50 on the straight line, back again, up again. It continuously varies the temperature, while the core of the tire is much more stable, and it is that keeps the pressure more stable and doesn't and you don't see the pressure going up and down all the way. So obviously all that is simulated, and you can see some of it into the tire HUD. Uh, Signoro, you are doing questions right now that I cannot answer because we are doing a completely different thing. All right, so the car is not that bad. We can work a little bit with it and see if we can, eliminate some of the understeer. There is still tons of understeer, which is not, because of the braking, but it's the natural tendency of the car right now, because obviously we have way too much rear wing and way too much rear downforce. So let's see if we can fix that. Okay. Right. So we said 54 brake balance and ABS 9. So let's go in. Return to the garage. ND4 speed or whatever. ND4 something. Thank you for following. Okay. So okay. We said we want 54 brake balance. 54, wow. And on the electronics, we want the ABS to go up to 9. We might also try 10 later, but we'll see. So I will use less traction control, but until then, I want to do, as I said, one thing at a time. We first focused on trying to make the car enter. We tried less brake bias, which helps a lot, and at some points we had some rotation of the car, so we are now close at the limit. If I bring the brake bias even more rearwards, we're gonna have stability issues, so I don't want that. But when I release the brakes, then I'm still having lots of understeer, so that means it's time to work a little bit on the aero. Now let's try this. Let's go up at the rear right height, because we know that going up at the rear moves the aero balance to the front. So it gives more grip to the front and a little bit less grip to the rear maybe. So let's move 2 clicks at the rear right height and see what happens, okay? No, 30 PSI is the so sorry guys. RVol says 30 PSI is a recommended value because this compound works with it, or is it just recommended to have higher pressure for any condition? No, it's a recommended value for those tires. Always, try to understand and follow the recommended value for each tire. Okay, so all right. Let's also lower a bit the brake ducts, because at the rear they are completely, cold. And here also we can do something. And try again. Try again. Again, as I said, 1 click at a time, so that you can understand and focus on what is happening, because otherwise if you start moving way too many things together, it really is difficult, you know, and you don't understand. Bit of understeer. You can see the car rotating. Just 2 clicks, guys. 2 clicks. You can see already the car rotating now. Might even rotate way too much. Right indicator on. Sorry about that. No, you shouldn't. Whoops! Oversteer. Ooh, we've lost it. Ha! Interesting. So as you can see, 2 clicks, and the car already, you know, starts to rotate properly. I wasn't paying attention, so it caught me out of guard, and here we have our first spin. But let's put the tires up to temperature and see what happens. You see also how the brakes are hitting the tires up. We already have much higher pressures than before, so probably we're gonna need less pressure now. Whoops. Keep watching the chat. I cannot drive. Okay, braking here. Ooh. Look at that turn in. Ooh, almost too much. So just 2 clicks, guys. You see how sensitive the cars are to ride height. It's amazing. I mean, every time it's so impressive. Yeah, GT3 are pitch sensitive. You guessed it, Frederick. I mean, look at that. The car now actually turns. Probably even too much. That's why I'm doing the the live streams. I'm gonna keep repeating it until everybody understands it. All right, so now we actually have a car that stays on track, that actually turns into the turns. All right, terrible use of words. It's, I would say, almost neutral, almost. Obviously slow, but you can see the conditions. It's not like we can, you know, make amazing lap times. And obviously the car is gonna manifest understeer or oversteer if you push it just a tiny bit over what the tires can handle. And you can see that especially at high-speed turns, because the tires cannot actually drain all the water from the road, because that is how the simulation works. So at higher speeds they cannot drain all the water, so if you ask too much they start a tiny bit of aquaplaning, and you can see the car moving to the side or having a little bit of understeer, a little bit of oversteer. So this is normal in such conditions, but actually the car, if you're careful, does what you want. So what's the problem now? As you can see, the problem is that I'm full acceleration, and the traction control cuts everything. So what we can do? We can use a little bit of less traction control. It's not going to be easy to find out how much. Obviously, the less traction control we use, the more the car will be very difficult under acceleration. But now it's the time to start using less traction control. And by using less traction control, we're gonna see how much the car will go into oversteer, and possibly see if, you know, we can use less traction control but change something to the setup to make the car handle the oversteer, you know? Okay, so where are we? At 8. Let's go to 7. Traction control 7. Ooh-hoo. Okay. You can hear the traction control cutting, but it accelerates. It's not stopped. At 8, you could hear the traction control, you know, cutting, and the car practically wouldn't accelerate. Now at 7, you see, it gains speed. Now obviously if you keep doing it, you can see that it starts rotating a little bit too much. Oh, look at that car, not bad. You see, it accelerates. The car turns, the car brakes, the car accelerates. Welcome, spoon-fed butter. Ooh, don't go over here. That's quite interesting right now. So much better in acceleration. Let's try to do a normal lap again, but at least one full lap without doing errors. But you can see already how much it gains. Ooh, a tiny bit of oversteer, obviously. Already a fastest lap. Oops, sorry about the engine. And already the delta is going down. Well, the car is not easy now. It's not so easy to control. We have issues, but it is much faster than before, and it is of course controllable, while the first setup we tried was completely undrivable. Hello Marco Manno, welcome. Thank you so much guys for subscribing to the channel. So many people coming along. Ooh, I've started braking way too late. But I saved it, so good. Yeah, it's so much faster now. I'm gaining almost 2 seconds. Keeps on accelerating. You have to be careful. Yeah, much better. Ooh, over 2 seconds. Look how much acceleration we get. Okay. It's evident to everybody that the car is so much faster than before. Let's move down to 6 on traction control. And we do it. Whoa, oversteer. Oh, whoa! 6 is no go. We cannot do it in 6. Traction control 6 in those conditions is not good. Quindi stasera non si dorme, Tony. Oh, it's already midnight. Oh my god. Now, obviously, traction control 6, again, the car accelerates much faster, but can you control it? It's always this thing. And, of course, okay, Lucignolo doesn't understand what I'm telling him, so whatever. And, of course, the problem is if you are in a race, what do you want? Do you want to, gain maybe uh, just a tenth of a second, or do you want to stay alive? So, and as I said, we are trying here to make a setup for the worst possible conditions. Ooh, traction control just doesn't work. Just doesn't work. Frederick, of course, traction control is maximum. Is one of the most important things affecting car control. Because, as I said, tires cannot do two things at the same time. They cannot accelerate at maximum grip and also maintain lateral grip, maximum lateral grip. So what happens is that if you lower the traction control, then the tires will try, the engine will ask from the tires more longitudinal grip, okay, to accelerate more. But if you are doing the turn, if you are inside a turn like that, then the more longitudinal we make the tires slide laterally. And this provokes, obviously, oversteer, like this. You see? All right, so. Well, that what Marcelo just said is very, very interesting, and it is worthy to search about it. So Marcelo says, lowering the rear, so gaining some extra grip at the rear, can it help with traction control 6? Possibly yes, and we are going to try it. But it is a little bit more important. So let's for a moment go in, save everything, which is this seems like a pretty good um, setup to use. Uh, we are going to keep traction control 8 for the preset so that everybody is safe, and then people can slowly try to lower the traction control. So this is the preset. We call it wet 2 and preset. This is a pretty good setup for any condition. Okay, good. Now we were at 7 and we went down to 6 and we had issues. So Marcelo Pasquazzo says, okay, maybe we can lower the right height and see if the car, works better. That's an excellent opinion. So let's go back to 60 and see how the car reacts. Okay, you can see already how the car is pretty soft everywhere. Okay, and it is soft because with rain you need a car that is softer and moves around and doesn't do strange stuff. Okay, because why? Because the grip is much lower. Lower grip means that the car is not going to roll or pitch so much. Okay, so softer setup will give the car some roll, some pitch to give the driver some indication of what the car is about to do. But at the same time, it won't cause you many trouble because, again, the roll, the pitch will be limited because of the low grip. When we have good grip, we want much stiffer suspension all around to keep the body movement more limited, because otherwise if you use this kind of wheel rates and anti-roll bars at dry circuit, you're going to get so much roll that the car is going to be unstable. Okay, The bump stop range is already increased. You see, it's 5. Usually with the Lamborghini, we use 1 or 0. So it's already increased. Everything is increased here. So let's move forward. So we have lowered the traction control, but also lowered again the rear end. Will this work? I don't know. Sometimes it might work, okay. Sometimes it might not work because simply the rain is so much that when you ask from the tires more acceleration, they lose lateral grip and you can do much more. And then, whoops, you see already started with some oversteer. Ooh, again, we have oversteer while accelerating. As you can see, if I let go, it doesn't oversteer in coasting. It actually understeers a little bit. But when I'm going to the accelerator, instant oversteer. You see, again, now here again, we have understeer entering the turn exactly as before. Okay, so obviously the traction control can do nothing when we are, braking or in coasting. So again, now we are in the same situation as before. We're having some, you see some understeer. Car simply understeered there. But we still have, quite a bit oversteer under acceleration. So this time, in these conditions, the proposal of using a lower traction control and lower rear height to get some grip behind, it goes good in theory, but in practice didn't work. Uh, it isn't that it didn't work because it's wrong. The theory was good, and at some situations it might work perfectly. In these conditions right now, it simply didn't work. So that's how it is. Okay. So don't think that that never it's never going to work. It is a very good thing that you thought about, and you should try it every time. But as you saw, sometimes it simply doesn't work. We can try the differential and see. You see, car slides because first it starts with understeer now, and second, after a while, the rear tires, because of the traction control is low, they start to slide, and car slides laterally altogether. You see, look at the understeer here. So then I go on the accelerator, and then it oversteers again. Okay, let's go in. Yeah, sure. I don't know what you want to send to the chat, but go on, no problem. Adding a recommended pressure window to the tire table would be a great idea. Could be, yeah. But it's not so easy. It's not a fixed number. It changes depending on your setup, the track, the conditions. It's not so easy. Yep. All right. So it didn't work. So let's go back to our preset, which was pretty good. It works. Sorry, with traction control 7, and that was nice. No, preload differential is at 100 newton meters. It's a little bit too tight. For those conditions, we can lower it a little bit at 40 and see what happens. Okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes doesn't work. Again, now we are in a situation when you have your right height correct and the car is neutral. This is the condition when you want to do as many laps as possible. Stay at good lap times. See what lap times you can do. Be consistent, which means that you are close on your limit and on the car limit. Okay. And when you have done that, then you are starting to experiment with different things and see if you are gaining time. This is the condition when your car is pretty good, it's neutral, it does whatever you call it to, you asked it to do. And then whatever changes you do, the judge is the chronometer. So you have to watch what the lap time is, and this is an indication of what you need. So let's go down to 40 and see what happens. Sebastian Brunner says 100 to 40, a little bit, one click at a time. Yes, you're right. But in the preload, you can do some extra clicks to understand what's happening, because otherwise if you do just one click, you go to from 100 to 90. It's a fine tuning setting, so you don't really understand the difference. You need to do something extra. All right, so where were we? Okay, and let's go. So an open differential could a more open differential, it's not that the differential open, but it's for sure it's more open, could possibly help us with some more turning under braking and coasting, and maybe some extra stability when we're accelerating. For sure, it might not give us all the possible acceleration, because one of the wheels might start, one of the wheels might start uh, slipping around. Uh, but we'll see. Hello, Tortellini. All right, so let's see what we can do. We are still at traction control 7. Oh yeah, Tortellini, you didn't miss anything, to be honest. We just went full hour doing nothing at all, and people watching me trying to understand why my computer was crashing and the sound wouldn't work and all that stuff. Very, very, very enjoyable. Absolutely. Oh yes, lots of fun without you. Oops. I think we had a tiny bit of understeer, under acceleration. That could be a good indicator. Obviously, at higher speeds, you get some extra oversteer. I'm a little bit faster, but again, I'm not yet consistent, so it could be everything. Could be the setup, but it could be simply me. So, as I said, before starting with the fine tuning, you need to get consistent on your lap times. You need to lap much, much more. This is very, very important, guys. I keep telling you, you really have to take it seriously. Practice and lap times is what makes you more consistent, and then, only then, you can start getting better with your setup. Otherwise, you don't know what you're doing, to be honest. But I am getting better, so by quite a bit. Hey Ansi, thank you so much for joining, mate. Alright, so this is an interesting lap. 1 second faster, so it seems that it works better, or I'm getting better. And now it's time to go back to 6. Traction control 6. I can already feel it much more unstable. Whoa! Not good. Maybe for a qualifying lap might be better, but even then I doubt it. Let's see here. Ooh. No, 6 is just not good enough for those conditions. Not good enough. Possibly for a little bit more dry conditions than this thing here, it could work nicely. But in these conditions right now, it's not the correct solution. No, I'm just keep losing time. It's not possible. Right. So we did make a much better lap than before. I think this is more than enough. Okay, in these conditions. Of course, we can get better and better and better, and so we will see. Strazo, you're gonna see everything when the update comes. Don't worry. Predictive stuff. All right. So, okay. This is a great setup for baseline. I believe we can easily make it, for the Huracan. I am going to test it on a couple of other circuits to make sure that it works properly. And obviously, I'm gonna do some extra stuff from some strange circuits, like I don't know, Monza, that you might need much more, straight line speed. But yeah, you're gonna find this setup into the presets in the next. In the next update. So let's see a little bit the chat. How is it going? Um, uh, okay. The game looks better probably because I have upgraded a little bit my PC, so I've raised a little bit the graphic settings. Test another car in these conditions to see how close the Lambo is. That's a great idea, but I wanted to show you something different. So I wanted to show you this. So let's first get out of here and see if I can also, make it happen, because it's not so easy. So let's go to custom. Lots of precipitation, no standing water. So here's what I'm going to do now. Okay, I want to have lots of rain, lots of rain. Okay, and I want to start with a optimum level grip, so the track is rubbered and completely dry. Okay. Okay, so I want to do this, and of course I'm gonna start with slick tires and see what happens. Now this is the actual version of the game, is not 1.3.10 yet. We are on a beta, so I want to do that. Big print. If you have just joined, we said that the Lambo, the Evo, had actually some drivable wet presets that by error I've let them into the game. My mistake. I apologize for that. But I am fixing that for the next update. So finally, you get some drivable setups for the Huracan on the wet. No, I don't think so, because they're not the same cars. I will gonna have a look just to be sure, but they are not the same cars. They do not use, even though they are very similar, but they do not use the same setups. It's a completely different set of physics. That's why they feel also a bit different. So yeah. So let's do this again, guys. Stay focused. We have a completely dry track and lots of rain. Okay, so we're gonna go in. Oh, look at that. Go drive instantly.
Green light. Give it all you can.
On the setup, who cares? Actually, it got us. They gave us. Okay, let's go to aggressive. Slick tires. Okay, so it rains a lot. Let's go. And let's see what happens. So it's still slick tires. You can see that I can still control the car, but it's raining, and in very fast we're gonna have big issues controlling the car.
Low tire pressure. Stay away from
So
birds.
what is going to happen right now? Now we have the car, the circuit that is rubbered, so there's lots of grip. Okay, there's lots of rubber on the track, and now it rains. And as you can see, I'm starting having big issues controlling the car. Right? It doesn't even. Look at that! I cannot even brake. So it is extremely. Look how. Wow. Whew. Okay, so it really is slippery. It's extremely slippery. What can I do? First thing, go grab some marbles. Those tiny little rubbers that they are at the side of the road. Second thing, get out of the racing line. Go just a little bit wide. Brake outside here, like this. You see, I can brake. Again, outside of the racing line. Cross the racing line. You see, I have traction here. Now here you can't do anything, so you have to be very careful, because it slides extremely. So much slide on the racing. Now outside the racing line, I can still brake the car and slow down. You see, yeah, I got it way too much, but I believe you understand what I mean. So if I'm on the racing line again, look how it slides, and then as soon as I go outside the racing line, I have grip again. Now, not anymore. Obviously, it gets worse and worse and worse because we are on slicks. So let me show you this in replay from the outside, that you can understand what I did. Okay, let's go like that and have a go. So, as you saw, the circuit was still dry. Okay, so I had good grip, but the rain was quite hard. So staying on the racing line, I'm starting sliding around, you see. When I'm going outside the racing line, I have a tiny bit more grip. Not too much, but it is, you can understand it. Again, going into the racing line here, but this time you can see I cannot even stop the car. You see, I'm going wide. I'm sliding around, but once I'm outside the racing line that is here, again, grip. Okay? So, on the racing line, braking, going completely wide because I cannot stop the car. Look how slidey the car is here. So, for example, let's go back, okay, and see this at a slower speed. So, I don't know, guys, if you can see my mouse. Yes, I think so. But this is the racing line, right? Cool. Now, as you can see, if I go close to the racing line, I start sliding a lot because I was braking on the racing line. Now, once I'm outside the racing line here, the car regains some grip. We're not talking like, there is no grip and there is full grip. There is very low grip and there is some grip. This is what's happening, okay? Now, here again, not only I'm over the curb, which is extremely, extremely slidey when it rains like that. So don't go over the curbs as much as possible. But now that you can see that I'm trying to accelerate, here's the HUD. I'm trying to accelerate, and the car slides while I'm on the racing line. Okay, look how it completely slides away. Okay, sliding away comes out from the racing line. The racing line stops around here, and here there is no racing line anymore. Okay, and look at this, and now I regain control again because I get some grip again. Moving forward on the racing line again, back, and you can see the car already start sliding again. Just accelerating straight. Look at this, it's terrible. So now I'm outside the racing line and I have some grip. Look at that. On the racing line now, while I'm accelerating, and you see difficulties to control the car. Now we're going here to get some extra. Now, those things here that you see, those little black things, are marbles. They are practically, let me show you, they are pieces of rubber that accumulate as much as the cars are, lapping the circuit. Okay, so um, the car laps the circuit, and the truck gets more and more in optimum condition. It gets more rubbered, and you see those marbles accumulating at the side of the outside the racing line. Now, those marbles can picked up by the tires because the tires are very hot and very sticky. So if you pass through them, you can hear them, and they also get picked up by the tires and they attach themselves to the tires. Now, what is happening? This is very interesting. Uh, when the marbles attach on the tire is no longer slick. Yes, obviously, it doesn't have the groove that a normal wet tire has, but it has some points that touch the ground and some points that up from the ground because it has now the marbles all around it, which means um, the water on the road can go through those passages, and you have a slick tires that manages to drain a little bit of water. Again, it's not like a proper rain tire, but it's better than a completely slick tire. So what real drivers do is go on when in such conditions. So they are driving, into a completely um, dry situation. Car is perfect, dry setup and everything. Okay, and at some point, uh, full rain comes down for whatever reason. Okay, the weather changes and you get the rain, and they are still out with the wet tires. So what they do is they go over the marbles as much as they can to accumulate and pick up some marbles on the tires, and this will permit them to do 1 or 2 laps with the slicks on the wet asphalt until they can get back, to the pits and change the tires, because obviously they cannot continue like that. But it gives you just a tiny bit more control if you manage at every straight to go outside and pick up some marbles. So this is what happens also in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And actually, we have to thank David Berel for letting us know this nice little piece of secret of the actual drivers. And this is why we implemented it. So now, again, you can see here, braking is fine when outside the racing. Now we are exactly on the racing line, and look how the car completely slides away. Okay, outside the racing, we can control the car. So it's not like that you have to be here. Okay, but if you know that the racing line is here close to the curb, just stay a little bit outside. Give it a car width. Stay a little bit outside so that your outside tires are outside the racing line and get a tiny bit less slippery surface of the asphalt. Now look at this. We are going completely outside the racing line. We are not staying here. Okay, we will stay here at the inside of the road, and we will try to brake as late as possible, as if it was, the dry line. So let's see what will happen. You see, I'm braking now at the start of the curb, which means I'm braking at my dry line reference points. Now, obviously, I have less speed because I'm going slower, but still, it's too late for raining. If I started braking this late on the racing line, I would have ended way, way too wide and long into the brake distance. But here, outside the the racing zone, here what happens. I have grip. I can brake sooner. Then, obviously, here I am into the. Obviously, I have to cross the racing line, and you can absolutely check. Oops, sorry about that. Oh, damn, I've lost it. I don't know where I am. Okay, I was a little bit behind. Sorry about that. So you see that uh, here I'm just crossing, because this is where the racing line comes in. You see, this is where it is. I am crossing it, and you can see the car sliding straight. It instantly loses grip from the front tires as it crosses the racing line with all the rubber and oil, and slides straight. It goes outside here and regains grip again, and I can finally make the turn. You see, now I've crossed it again, and I've managed to put the car at the inside, and now I have traction to accelerate. You see, I can accelerate. Now going again into the racing line, all right? Again, slides. Look at how the car slides sideways, and goes also into oversteer and all that stuff. Now, obviously, you see how it slides on the racing line. Now, the problem is, of course, so Aris, are you saying we should drive, outside the dry line? No, it's not possible. It's not like that you're going to be faster like that. Now, what happens is that when the rain starts and the track is completely rubbered, then going outside the racing line, braking outside the racing line, helps you brake better and possibly helps you accelerate better. But is this the fastest solution? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe only for the first 2 or 3 laps, because this condition uh, happens for about 3-4 laps. Okay, but then if you have many cars going around and you have lots of rain, at some point they clean up the racing line. The rain cleans up the racing line, and you can use the racing line again because there's no rubber. Now, I admit that this might happen way too early in a sottocorsa competizione. Usually, after 6 or 7 laps, you won't have as big problems as now. But it was the best that we could do with the technology that we're using right now. I think we are doing something that hasn't been happened before. And my advice is that for the first 4 or 5 laps, try to find the grip. Don't go on the racing line. Try to find the grip. At some turns, you cannot do differently. It doesn't mean that if you are always going to do outside the racing line, you're going to be faster. No, at some turns, it's simply impossible to do something else. But what you could do, and we will show you in a minute, is that you can stay outside the racing line and then slowly go to the racing line and do the turn, and then try to stay a little bit at the inner side to get some traction if you can. uh, so let's see that again. Here, outside the racing line, I can brake almost on my dry reference point, and you can see I can do it. Now I am crossing the line because here is the racing line, and you can see the car sliding way out. So I've lost it here. So this is actually what happens. Okay, this is actually what happens in Assetto Corsa Competizione. How else you can do it? At some point after the initial downpour of the rain, uh, as I said, at around 6 to 7 laps, if you have many cars and you have lots of rain, it's gonna clean the racing line, but it doesn't clean it completely. Okay. Uh, if you try, you will still see that if you are try to brake outside the racing line, you might be able to brake a little bit sooner. So this is interesting because it means that you could try either overtake or defend by staying outside the racing line. Okay, even if the racing line is clean, you are going to get a tiny bit more grip outside the racing line, but it's not the fastest line anymore because it's clean, and using the actual wide outside before turning, inner at apex and outside at the exit again, this is going to be the fastest way around the circuit. But if you have someone behind you want to defend, the inner one will give you even shorter braking distance if all the circuit is wet. Okay. All right. So I hope this is clear enough. Some extra stuff, as you saw. Now let's do something more easy. Let's go out. So let's get something not as terrible, like I don't know. Oops. Custom, yeah. Something like that. Oops. A little bit of rain. Okay, and a little bit of wetness. Okay, cool. And let's put the grip at green so it's clean. Okay. Yeah, guys, please, no iRacing against all the other sims or ACC against all the other sims. We are using ACC here. I'm trying to show you things. Please don't make the chat, a war. I don't want to hear stuff like that. All right. Respect the other devs, exactly as CC Driver says. Each one of them merits absolute respect from all of us. So don't do it. Okay. Let's do this. So as you saw, guys, again, a little bit of precipitation and a little bit of wetness, and we go in. Now normally, until now, you could use the slick tires here and you could have been quite fast. Okay, so let's get the aggressive preset. But with the new
Go, go, go.
with this new version that you're gonna get soon enough, things are not so easy anymore. So it's not that the car is undrivable, but it can be tricky. So slick tires, a little bit of wet conditions, and already you can see that the car moves around a little bit more when I'm, whoops, you see
Low tire pressure.
how I've
Stay clear
lost,
of the curbs.
you see how it slides around now. So this is the condition that, yeah, slicks give you some grip, and you don't have aquaplaning because there's not enough rain, but they are getting hard. I mean, it's they are on the edge because, as you can see, when it slides, it just goes away. You see, some strange understeer, some strange oversteer. You have the grip, and at some point you lose it, and it's much more evident than before. You have to be really on your toes and stay really careful on what you're doing. Yes, I know I have to light up my lights. So lights up and no more black and orange. You see how it instantly goes away from you, and you have to be very, very fast to catch it, because otherwise you might have issues. Whoops, you see? Again. So yeah, it's I think we proved quite a bit more the slicks on wet asphalt, on damp asphalt, let's say, situation. It's better. You can see how I have to work with the car to keep it in line, and obviously this is gonna make you even more undecided on if it's the case to get in, get wet tires, or stay out on the slicks and risk about it. Well, so that is. So let's go back and get the wet tires now. Let's load, of course, our new preset, which is much better. Okay, and yes, if you Costas asks, hello James, thanks for the following. Costas asks a very nice question. Aris, if you have dry tires on a dry track, will the marbles affect the tire performance? Absolutely. They're gonna get slower because you're gonna lose some grip. You're gonna get some extra vibration if you pick up much, many marbles. So the more you pick up, the more vibrations you get, and also the tires will not be as precise anymore. They're gonna be slidey and less precise. So don't do that on dry conditions. Of course, if you keep then lapping, after a while the marbles go away and you clean the tire. Okay, but you need some laps to do that. Okay, so wet tires now on these same conditions. So let's see. Now here's the situation, very interesting situation that you need to know. Because the track is not completely wet as before, the brake balance that we have, 54%, is way too far behind. So we need to put it forward, because as you saw, I had issues to control the car while braking. Now that is better, but car is much more stable otherwise. So let's do a lap, and we can also put the traction control lower, because again, right now we have practically just a tiny bit wet track, but not actual water on the circuit, so it's no big deal. You see how it wants to rotate way too much under braking, but this is all understandable. The problem is that the more I drive, as you can see, the tires start to become already orange, you know, which means that in those conditions, the tires are going to overheat. And if the wet tires overheat, then at some point you're going to lose again. Um, you're going to lose grip. So what are you going to use? Are you going to use wet tires and overheat, or are you going to use, slick tires and have grip but snappy handling of the car because they lose grip instantly? Uh, Also, keep in mind, now we are alone. If we have 30 or 50 cars driving around in a very short time with this kind of rain, we're going to have a dry line. And on the dry line, the tires will overheat even more. So it gets much trickier than before. You see how it starts overheating and the car becomes more and more oversteery. Just 2 laps, I mean, not even 2 laps, and the tires start to overheat. Yeah, the wet tires are usually, the tires that you put on and forget, even if it rains. Uh, the actual real drivers are telling this that, you can stay with the wet tires and you won't have big issues. But obviously, you are going to lose performance, you're going to lose lap time, and you don't want that. So that is why at some point they go in and get the slick tires, even if they are more difficult to drive, because at the end of the day they give you better performance as the conditions dry out. So that is what is happening. The wet tires is just, keep on driving. They overheat. They don't care about it. But obviously you lose performance. It's easy to drive on them. No big deal, but you lose performance. So here it is. We have already some overheating. Pressures are up, and so on. All right, so return to grass. Mattia Rivas says, "What happened when you got wet track racing line and start to get dry and on your wet tires?" Right. Um, Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. So it's not something I can properly simulate now. Let's try it. Let's see if I can simulate this. So quit and show you this last thing. So let's quit this. Yes, it's exactly what Matthias asked above you, Ervol. Our Lexus is not so fast in the weight. It's just an easy car to handle. So easier it is, the more you can push it. Yes, yes, of course, in the sim. So let's try to do a quick race with many drivers. Actually, let's do some practice here, like this. Okay. Confirm this. Let's go into a wet track like that, but no precipitation at all. High temperature, no cloud cover. So we have lots of hot and lots of sun, because everything is simulated. If you have sun and hot temperature, the track will dry out sooner. Okay. uh, if you have, clouds and colder temperature, the track will dry out later. So everything is simulated like that. So let's put this somewhere about 34. Some standing water. And okay, let's go in. Allora, Daniel, so let's start here. and let the other cars,
Go, go, go.
move around. And in the meantime, we want them to, start lapping. And in the meantime, we can answer some questions. So Daniel Laika says, if all the drivers change from the ideal line to line B theoretically, will the ideal line get marbled? Do marbles get consumed? No, unfortunately, we don't have such a dynamic line. The dynamic dry line will always be the same. We weren't able to do this. So because we weren't able to do this, we decided to do much more, complex simulation of everything else around it. You lose some, you gain some, but unfortunately, we cannot do this. The marbles do not get consumed. Will the try? So Nap0 says, will the truck drive faster with a higher time multiplier? No. The higher time multiplier only has to do with the sun, okay, how it changes, but it doesn't changes the actual time of how a truck gets, wet and how it gets dry. Now, of course, uh, if the sun goes up and down much faster, then it will also get dry slower because it doesn't have enough time with the sun, hitting the surface. So this, yes, up to a point. But it's not like, you put it at 4x and you get the circuit to dry 4 times faster. Guys, one at a time. Mm, yes, Arvol, the water that is raining and not on the ground. It is connected. When it's raining, you also get some slower, some more aerodynamic drag actually. So you get a little bit slower top speed, lower top speed. Does engine power decrease? RDG asks. Does engine power decrease with lower fuel pressure? No, not really. No. Well, the time multiplier obviously multiplies, how the sun goes up and down. So it does influence what happens during the day. The day is shorter, so whatever has to change, it's gonna change faster. Let's see what is going on here. Let's see if I can switch to a different car. Okay, let's follow the cars and see if they manage to uh, dry up the line, because this is what we want to do. Does ambient temperature affect horsepower? Absolutely yes. Ambient temperature affects horsepower. Altitude affects horsepower. It also affects uh, atmospheric pressure, and so that means it also affects aerodynamic drag and lift. So if you have a hotter conditions means that you generate less drag and less downforce than what you generate in colder conditions, and in high altitude again the same. I think this happens on on. Okay, so let's try. Let's go in and try. All right, so wet, nice. I think we already have a wet line, so we can check. All right, so it is still a little bit wet. Ooh. Ah, yes. we have the undrivable wet setup. Sorry about that. As I said, this is undrivable, so let's load our new wet setup and go for it. You cannot see the pressures of other cars in multiplayer, as far as I know. Yes, exactly, Arvol. This is why Pikes Peak's cars have enormous wings, amongst other things. Obviously, rules also, they just let them do it. Okay, so you can see already my tires are getting really, really hot, right? You can see them becoming orange and red. So what happens if I leave and go to the wet line? Look at that. Oh, they come back green again. Isn't that nice? Huh? So, if I stay on the dry line, obviously the wet tires becoming red hot overheating very, very soon, very, very fast. So let's overheat them again. Okay. So as you can see, the rear tires are already overheating quite a bit. See how red they are? Oops. Even the core now is orange, practically. And now let's move to the wet line and see the surface instantly becoming green. And you see the surface becoming green. Ah, whoops. Yeah, thank you so much. But obviously I've braked in the middle of the turn, almost stopped, so what did you expect? So again, let's see this. Tires are completely red right now. So let's go to the wet line. Wet line here. Although it's almost dry here too, so I'm gonna have issues. Everywhere is dry now. Let's see at the long straight if we can cool them down a little bit. Okay, so tires are extremely hot right now. And now let's go over here and see the surface. It's getting green already. You see the surface of the tires? Green, completely green. Now obviously, as I said, it's already a little bit dry even outside the racing line, which means that they cannot get so cold instantly. If we had more rain, you would see if the surface was much more wet, you would see the tires going green very, very fast, very, very fast. Obviously, the same thing happens on the contrary. So, if I get here the aggressive setup with slicks, okay. So aggressive setup with slicks. Graining is a thing. That's why you have it on the last readings. I won't tell you. So, right now we are with slick tires on the wet surface, and you can see the slick tires becoming cold and completely, as you can see, blue. So let's go here. You can see the surface of the slick tires becoming completely blue. It's going even towards the dark blue here. Okay, now let's try and follow the racing line, which is drier, and see if we can raise a little bit the surface temperature of the slick tires. And already you can see that, yes, of course, they remained a little bit on the azure, on the cyan, but it's not completely blue as before. Let's see if I can drive a little bit and make them go a tiny bit green. It's not really possible yet, but for sure is much less. It's a light blue and not a dark blue than that you get when you go over the wet spots. Yeah, I can tell you a couple of things about graining, which is a great opportunity right now, because graining happens when the tires slide and they are cold. Okay, this is when graining happens. So if you have tires that they are cold and you keep on pushing on them and you keep on sliding them on the surface, because they are not hot enough to stick on the ground, they slide over the surface and the surface cuts them, and the cuts generate on the surface of the tire marks, lines, lines, and this is called graining. And what graining does is that, because it creates, as I said, slick tires on wet, not so good. As I said, uh, because of those slices on the tire, the slick tires start to behave less precise. They are not sticky on the ground anymore, and they are less precise, and they are losing some grip because they are losing some footprint because of the slices, and obviously they are losing contact paths. The footprint becomes smaller because there are many little slices. So this is graining, okay? And obviously all of that already exists in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And if you keep on pushing on cold tires, as we are doing right now, you're gonna get graining, of course, okay? You can see already the tires starting to, that's my bad, sorry about that. You can already see the tires becoming a little bit green, because the asphalt keeps on drying out, and so we can put some, but still, you saw how the car becomes tricky. And I'm with traction control 6, so it's not so easy. Whoa, you see? It's not so easy, not so easy. Okay, so you saw what happened. You saw that we done a couple of laps in cold conditions, and we tried to boost. So if we go inside the setup right now, okay, current setup, and we go obviously to the fueling strategy, and we go back to our tire set. We didn't got any graining, which is unfortunate, but normally if you keep on going, you need more than 2 laps. You need many laps, because as Pirelli told us, those tires do not really make lots of graining. But if you keep on going, at some point you're gonna get graining. Again, it's not too much. Other tires generate much more graining, but the Pirelli seems to handle the situation pretty well, and they do not generate so much graining. As Nap Zero asking, yes, graining and blistering having different effects on the grip. Blistering provokes much more vibration on the tires, because you have actual holes on the tires that vibrate your wheel. Um, So this is all mainly. I think we covered pretty much everything about this situation. Valentin Barr says, "Will you fix the fact that when you go over a crest or a bump, the Bentley hits the rev limiter and is stuck on it?" Uh, I wish I could. It's not so easy. It's an electronics thing. It's not so much of a bug as much as this thing actually happens, but the real car manages to control it better with the electronics, and we cannot find out yet how. But we will try to implement a better electronic condition and limit this thing. What causes blistering? Blistering is caused by extreme overheating. So when you overheat the tires and you overheat the core, not the surface, the core of the tire, when you overheat the core of the tire, the tire actually starts to boil. Okay, the tire boils, and because it boils, it generates small air packets inside the core of the tire. Now those air pockets bubbles practically, they start climbing the tire, and because the tire is so overheated and soft, and at some point they go outside at the surface, they burst, because they are actually bubbles of air. They burst and they create those spots around the surface of the tire, and this is what generates all these vibrations and loss of grip. So this is blistering. So that is why blistering, you cannot improve blistering. If you get blistering, you keep it and that's it. While graining, if you have graining but you manage to bring your tires back to proper temperature, and you do not slide your tires too much, then graining slowly diminishes and gets away. You can improve graining on the tires, you cannot improve blistering on the tires. Make a community server. Yes, I would have to get a server somehow. We'll have to think about it. As the channel grows, could be a nice idea. um, make a stream with an analysis of my mistakes. Yes, that would be, or your mistakes. That would be also good. uh, Adam Ferguson from Australia. Hello, Adam. uh, well, you can do what I do. Practically, you stop, you press ESC, you go back without stopping. The tire HUD color means temperature, only temperature. We do not show you tire computer consumptions, because also in the real cars, you never know exactly the tire consumptions. The only way to know the tire consumption is to stop, get the tire out of the car and measure it to check how much depth remains of the tire. That's the only way. So when you're driving, the only way to understand how much tire wear you have is by understanding how much the tire becomes slidey or less. All right. GT4 physics coming along very nicely, very nicely. Much easier car to drift around and work with. All right, guys. I think it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I still have to work during the weekend because deadlines. So that's it for today. Thank you so much. Most importantly, thank you so much for keeping with me during the first hour where nothing worked on my computer. Uh, Again, what can I say? Thank you so much for your support. Subscribe, like, all that stuff keeps the channel getting bigger and keeps bringing people in, and we can educate people to become better racers and understand better ACC. Obviously, as usual, keep an eye on the channel. I will cut the various things that we discussed about today and post them as too long didn't watch videos series. All right. Thank you, Mario Fonseca, for subscribing. And right. Good night, everybody, and see you on the next stream. Cheers.